like to thank EA for sponsoring today's video. What's going on, everybody? My name is C4, and my good friends at EA said we want you to make some franchise guides. Earlier today, I dropped an ultimate for beginners into Madden 24 franchise guide. That is cover to cover everything you need to know about franchise. And if you're brand new to the series, go check that out. Today's video is going to be a little bit more advanced. We're going to start with a draft guide in Madden 24. Very early draft guide, but it's going to give you guys an absolute advantage when you load up your first franchise mode for your rebuild or in a multi-user league. It is going to give you guys an advantage to be able to identify and select the best players so you can dominate your draft just like I do every single year. So that's going to be valuable. If you want to stick around after that, I have 10 tips and tricks that utilize some tried, tested, and true methods in franchise mode, also highlighting some new features in Madden 24 if you guys want to stick around with that. But first, we're going to start with a draft guide because I'm sure a lot of you guys want to hop into franchise mode and start pulling some generational X-Factor players, and I'm going to help you do it. Before we can get into the draft guide itself, there are some things we need to talk about regarding the draft. Now in Madden 24, you have an option to edit the draft class strengths and weaknesses if you don't plan on using a custom draft class, which will let you cheese the draft if you want or make it incredibly difficult by being able to address and set every single position and either make it very weak or very strong. I do plan on making a video kind of testing this out, seeing how bad the very weak classes are, how strong the very strong is, but that is for another video. But just adding a new feature here in Madden 24, which will allow you to have a little bit of fun depending on what you want to look for in your draft classes. So the first piece of business, before you even really dive in to who the top players are going to be, you gotta maximize your scouting staff. And this is something that I think a lot of people skip over and like, how come I don't have these players 100% scouted? I'm going to show you how to dominate your scouting staff so then you can So unless you like the fantasy of having X players be on your scouting staff, which sometimes you do, like I had Luke Kuechly one year as a scout and I eventually made him my head coach, which was kind of intertwined, but generally speaking, I clean house every single year in my franchise modes for my scouts. There's no punishment whatsoever for firing your scouts. You can rehire them whenever, but when you give yourself a clean slate, you can then go into the region breakdown and make sure you min-max your scouts every single season based off of the strengths and weaknesses of the region. This is when I bust out a little pen and paper and I go down National, West, Central, Northeast, and Southeast regions. I look at the strengths, I look at the weaknesses, and I make sure I get a scout that if I can't get both strengths to line up, I get at least one, and obviously prioritize your biggest position in need as your top scouting expertise. So obviously we start with our 1 3-star scout as our national scout. That is your best scout, and we're going to be able now this year to get a 25% efficiency boost scouting all defensive ends. Now, you're never really going to be able to get a perfect roll every year where you can min-max so that both of the expertises are both the strengths. You just try to line up as best you can, but look, we did a pretty good job. The West region is maximized. The Central region, we get the top corners. The Northeast region is maximized, and the Southeast region is maximized. And more often than not, you can get at least 3 out of the 5 regions, you can get a scout that lines up with the strengths. Do this so you have the best information going into your draft. Then in week 3, when you get the option to set your regional focus scouting, this is everything but your national, make sure you go in and do this, because if not, it is going to be auto set, and every single year it locks in again. So like if I kept this as quarterback, which it shouldn't be because it's not a strength, it'll be quarterback this year, it'll be quarterback next year, it'll stay that until you change it. So go in and change your focus scouting every single year to make sure you line up. Don't do all the hard leg work to making sure you min-max your scout and then skip out on the stage, especially if you're just doing a rebuild and you're quickly simming every single year. Check up on these ones, make sure it's all up to date for every single region. Then at the mid-season point at week 8, you got to do the exact same thing for your national scout. Don't skip out on this. It will be locked in and it'll be useless. You'll be wasting it. I'd have my defensive end specialist scouting quarterbacks. And again, when you go next year and you fire your entire scouting staff and you do the exact same thing to min-max it, you have to go in and change it again. But now, by focusing on defensive end here at the national stage, by focusing on defensive end here from the Northeast and the Southeast, like most of our defensive ends are going to be 90 to 100% completely scouted come draft time, which is a massive advantage. Now, this stage in free agency is huge. Firstly, because Mock Draft 5, here's a little spoiler for you, is almost always, like 99% of the time, this is going to be the draft order. This is going to be the order that players go in. So if you have a specific target that you want, don't be like, well, maybe he'll fall to me. Maybe something different will happen on draft day. No, this gives you an absolute idea of where the guy is going and where you need to trade up to get that guy, or else he's going where he's projected here in Mock 5. And you can definitely utilize the private workouts scouting option right before the beginning of the draft. Because even though we went really heavy on scouting the defensive ends, and look at the information that we were able to get, we have most of these guys scouted 100%. We're going to be able to make a very conscious decision, but there's still, like, look, some of these guys are 95 that are slipping through the cracks. You don't really, it's based on region a little bit, but being able to have these extra 3 private workouts, we could just completely round out the position. Like Chris McKee, we'll scout him. That will bring up to 100%. We have Jose Bowen, and we can get Vaughn Fitzsimmons. So now we have the entirety of the draftable defensive ends 100% scouted going into the draft. Don't skip out on the legwork, man. It is a little bit tedious. It can be anyways. I personally love it, but it is worth doing. The juice is worth the squeeze. So it's now time for the draft, and we have gone all in on the defensive ends. And just to elaborate how important it was, just to not just sim right to the draft and taking advantage of that little private workout where we got 3 little reports. Chris McKee was only 95% scouted. He was still a question mark for his talent. We just used that. We didn't skip. He's a top 5 talent. If we didn't have that information, we'd be looking and be like, well, maybe he's good. Well, we got a couple other guys here that are first rounders. Like, no, not skipping that step. Doing the legwork, which some people could view it as tedious. I personally love it. It's what my favorite thing to do in franchise mode. It just unveiled that I have a top 5 talent. So when you're some of those people that just sim from point A to point B as quickly as possible, you're going to miss out on these very easy layups to help you dominate your draft. But I did this for a reason, going all in on defensive ends, because what I want to utilize in this draft guide is, yeah, this is all well and good. We now know what the defensive ends look like in this draft class, and obviously with going this heavily invested in scouting the defensive ends, that's likely where we're going in the first round. But after we get out of the first round, a lot of these positions, we just have like template basic scouting, 50% completion percentage. We're going off letter grades. You're going off some of the combine information, and you might be overwhelmed. You might not know what to look for. So we're going to go through every single position, and I'm going to give you my quick tips on how to identify if it's a good player. It's not 100% foolproof, but it'll get you by enough. And more often than not, I have a pretty good hit rate. Usually a little bit later on in the Madden cycle, there will be someone that does spreadsheets and analytics and all that crazy stuff, and I usually will regurgitate that information on you guys. But for right now, I have more than enough info to get you guys by so that you can blind pick, not only 100% scout certain positions, which is all the groundwork we've done so far, but now I'm going to give you guys some tips so you can blind pick with a very high success rate. So this is really going to get broken down into player grades and combine performances, because now that we're blind picking, that's all we really have. And we're going to start with quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are one that I would definitely not recommend if you need a quarterback skipping out on the position. Even if it's not a strength of the draft class, a lot of picking the right quarterback comes down to the key ratings, and you're only going to unveil those by scouting these players, because you're not going to ever really get much out of the combine. The biggest thing you want to look for, I guess if you're looking for a dual threat, you get a guy that's like a freak athlete. And nowadays in Madden, especially in Madden 24, there are players that get put into draft classes that are going to be like those Taysom Hill, Terrell Pryor, two-way type players. And I've actually yet to see one of those. But those guys do exist. So yeah, I guess you could take some of the combine information. But really the only thing you take off of physicals is look for the throw power. Right there in the bottom of the ratings tab on the left, throw power for this guy is good, which is not the best sign. Usually if you could find an elite throw power, because throw power is the premium attribute for a quarterback, that's sometimes like a tiebreaker, I would say. But generally speaking, for quarterbacks, I would value the grades. And that's not the same for every position. I'm not going to literally just make the ultimate like John Madden basic caveman analysis like good grades. For this guy, go with the best grades. For running back, go with best grades. Wide receiver, best grades. Some of these positions, there's some tells that you can go off of, but starting with the quarterbacks, I would almost always say go with the guy that has the higher letter grades. And if you need a tiebreaker, go with whatever quarterback has the highest base rating there in throw power. If they got elite, that's usually the one I would jump on. But right now, I would say that this Bayless guy, just analyzing the quarterback class, this is the one that you would want. out of all the QBs, and I would imagine he's easily going to be the top one because he has 3 A's. Deep accuracy, short accuracy, throw under pressure. He's going to be the best, but generally does look like a pretty weak quarterback class. And the top quarterback in this class is Bayless, so trust the letter grades when it comes to the skill ratings for your quarterbacks. And if you happen to have 2 quarterbacks or 3 quarterbacks that all have like a good mix of A's for their accuracies, the tiebreaker should always be who has the highest throw power. Next, we're going to look at the running backs. Another blind pick for us, 50%. I don't have a lot of letter grades. Letter grades for running backs are not be-all, end-all. This is a position that usually can identify the top players by going off of the combine, and that's what I did. I got 3 running backs I want to show you. I don't have a lot of information. Their letter grades might not even be the best. I guarantee they're going to be good players. We have Tevin Thomas here, and the 3 combine testing drills you want to look for. One is the 40-yard dash. His is not spectacular. His pro day was a little bit better, but you want to look for a combination. Ideally, you can hit all 3. If not, 2 out of 3 is still a pretty high success rate. You want the 40-yard dash, the 3-cone drill, and the 20-yard shuttle. And Thomas has the 3-cone drill and the 20-yard shuttle. Combine top 3 for his pro day, 1st and 3rd. He's going to be very good. We also have Zach Meander from North Carolina. Does have the A break tackle, which is nice, but look at this. 3rd in the 40-yard dash, check mark. Looking at his pro day, 4th in the 3-cone drill. Not so good on the 20-yard shuttle, but he's still got 2 out of 3. We'll put a heart and check mark next to him. Also, lastly, take a look at Will Can. No key ratings, nothing really to go off of. We have ball carrier vision, sure, but look at the physicals. We have top 10 in the 40-yard dash, and I would say that's about the cutoff. You want to see a guy that's top 10, but he's 1st in the 3-cone, 2nd in the 20-yard shuttle, has elite change of direction, elite jumping. He's probably going to be the best running back in the class. Scout's honor. I'm not reverse engineering this video. I'm going to go through because I want to make sure that my try, test, and through method still hasn't changed from Madden 23 to Madden 24. Looking at the top 3 running backs are the 3 that we talked about. Tevin Thomas, 75. Meander, 74. Will Can, 74. Combine, combine, combine. Running backs, look for the 40-yard dash, 3-cone, and the shuttle. Just talk about fullbacks because they're still a position. You really want to go letter grades. Like for most of these fullbacks, I have 2 letter grades unveiled. None of them look particularly good. Sometimes you do get a good roll. Sometimes you'll get your 2 letter grades. It'll be a B and an A. He's probably going to be pretty good, but for a position that is, I think, tied to letter grades to find the good one, you know, you'd have to scout fullbacks. Don't scout fullbacks. Now, wide receiver, this is an interesting one. Wide receiver is kind of a bit of both. You can use combine. You can also use letter grades. Letter grades is usually a pretty safe tell. There's a 3rd door for wide receivers, and it's going to be this Stephon Waddle. It was something that I found last year in Madden 23. If you had a B or A deep route running key rating, and the player was a deep threat archetype, and more often than not, they had 4.2 speed. They've nerfed it just a little bit, but look, he has elite speed. He is going to be very good. Guarantee it. But other than that, same kind of idea as the running backs. I think key ratings, don't be put off by bad key ratings. Always appreciate good key ratings for wide receivers, but don't be put off by bad ones. I've seen wide receivers that tick off all the boxes for the combine. Looking at Glenn Woods, we're looking for 2 of 3 for the 40-yard dash, the 3-cone, and the 20-yard shuttle. We get it with the 40-yard dash and the 20-yard shuttle. He also has elite acceleration. The fact that you're seeing a top 5 player right now, A catching's good, but you see the C release, C catch in traffic. Maybe he's not that good, but trust me, he ticks off the box of the combine. We'll check him out. I guarantee he's going to be a stud. We got Dalvin Wolf, double B's to start off. Combine, 4th in the 40-yard dash, 5th in the 3-cone elite acceleration. He's going to be good. Got Jamie O'Neal, a deep threat. B release, C catch in traffic. He has 4.3 speed, elite acceleration, elite agility. 1st in the 3-cone, 1st in the 20-yard shuttle. He might be the highest rated player in this draft, if not 2nd. These aren't always tied exclusively to like the 1st round picks. We got Ricky Jenkins here. You see D catch in traffic, C release. You're probably skipping over him. Always look at the combine. Look what we got here. We got 4.42. Not amazing, but he does have elite acceleration. He's 3rd in the 3-cone drill, 5th in the 20-yard shuttle. So he's top 5 in 2 major categories. He's going to be the value pick of the wide receivers this year, and you can get that just off of the combine. You can kind of throw his key ratings in the trash. Let's see how we did. We had Woods, who's an 80 overall. We had Wolf, who's a 78 overall. I didn't have Bradley or Birmingham. Again, nothing's perfect. I'm not going to get it every single time. But for a blind pick, we had wide receiver 1, we had wide receiver 2, we had O'Neal, who's a 75 overall, we had Jenkins, who's a 75 overall, and we had Waddle, who's a 74 overall. All blind picks going off this method. So moving to the tight ends, unlike wide receiver, where like certain guys you can disregard the letter grades and go off of the combine, I do like seeing a nice combo of combine and letter grades. But the combine, it's still the same. You're looking for the 3 drills, 40-yard dash, 3-cone shuttle. So we got Zach Bolden, fits that criteria, and he has some good letter grades. Russell Burton fits with some nice letter grades, and he is top 5 in the 40 and 3-cone. But here is my little nugget of information I can pass on you guys to get tight end steals. A run blocking, elite strength. They don't exist every year, but when they do, they're going to be a steal. And we just got a great roll here of this draft class. DeMarcus Hill. As soon as I saw a run block in my head, I was like, okay, before I record this, please have elite strength. He does. I would almost guess he might be the best tight end. I almost had luck last year, these guys almost automatically being X factors. And look at the top tight ends. It's Bolden at 76. Hill with the A run blocking elite strength 76, and Burton the third. I do need to see DeMarcus Hill's depth trait here. If it is X factor, I would love to. I need to like. It's only a star. Okay, it's not automatic, but I'm telling you right now, that is the special edition, the little next gen level 2 hack for scouting tight ends. A run block, elite strength, can't miss, can't lose. Full arts, make those picks. All right, so now we're going to talk about the offensive lineman just as a whole, because the same rule of thumb can kind of be used. And I would say it's never a bad strategy to go for athletes. We're going to look here at Colin Allman at center. Not the best key ratings, not really a strong center class, but his combine's pretty good. Overall, he's probably the most athletic center in the class. So we're going to start him up just to show that you can usually rely on the best athletes being solid players, and they tend to have nice roles for dev traits. But an old rule of thumb, so maybe it's been a minute since you played Madden. Old rule of thumb used to be if a lineman had more than 35 reps in the bench press, they were going to be good. They nerfed that the last couple of Madden, so you can't really go off of that. I would prioritize, when you can, the letter grades. Like, don't really blind pick linemen if you need linemen. Always try to scout them. But let's take a look here. We have a perfect example of a top 5 pick here in Trevor Allen. Ridiculous letter grades. A awareness, A pass block, A run block. Looks generational type player. But on the old methodology, the old thinking, you're looking at that, it's like decent athlete, but that's pretty bad bench press. 31 bench press reps 2-3 Maddens ago. Throw him in the trash. He's going to be a 67 overall, even with those other stats. He's going to be ridiculous because for drafting linemen, prioritize the letter grades. Talked about the athlete at center. Look at that. Colin Allman, not best grades, but he still pulls a 73, tied for the top center in the class. You would have waited, and look, superstar dev. Good athletes tend to have dev traits in Madden. But we also said trust the letter grades. So we had Feldman here at guard, who had the 3 A's and a B. He's 75. He's the highest rated, or at least tied for highest rated in the class. And the big tackle, Trevor Allen. Bench press, throw it out the window. He is an 82 overall. What is the dev trait? Superstar. As like literally on this, if I had this pick and I could have got him and the center, I would have walked with 2 superstar linemen from this draft class. So when it comes to drafting offensive linemen, don't sleep on the letter grades. Go to the defensive ends now, because we scouted the defensive ends and we kind of know who's going to be good. And you can trust the talent rating once you have it fully unveiled. They're going to be the best players. So Briggs, Thompson, and we have our top 5 true talent in Chris McKee. Now, if we didn't scout these guys, who would I assume is the best? I think for defensive linemen, especially defensive end, it's fluid because sometimes you get these defensive ends that are like Jamal Whitehead here, for an example. This guy's a 2nd, 3rd round talent at defensive end, but he has A, double B for the letter grades. He's 307 pounds, so if you're not in a 3-4 defense, you're going to be able to shift this guy to defensive tackle. And if you shift into defensive tackle, you got 39 reps, you get a D tackle that's running a sub-5 40-yard dash. You know, that's something to consider. So I would say rule of thumb generally for the defensive ends, and it's not a hot take, go for letter grades. So we have the double A's, Whitehead has the grades, and if not, also take a look at the 3 main drills. You can also throw in bench press. Bench press is not too bad, but I would always just say if you have the 40-yard dash, the 3-cone, and the 20-yard shuttle, they're going to be pretty good players. And look, that's exactly, we would have blind picked Ty Thompson to say he's good because he fits all that. And look, he was a first, second round talent. You're going to look at one of the top players in this year's draft class, a top 5 true talent in Chris McKee. And you look, you go, all right, he has a AA. So the letter grades, check out. What about the combine? Top 5 in the 40-yard dash, top 5 in the 3-cone shuttle, top 5 in the 20-yard shuttle. He's going to be a great player. I do also like to say for defensive ends, you can use the far left ratings. If you can get a couple elites in there, the better. Now for D tackle, same kind of deal, I would say, for defensive ends. You can always go with the best combine, but I would say I would almost prioritize the letter grades. If you give me a guy with good letter grades and maybe not fit the parameters of the 40-yard dash, the 3-cone, the 20-yard shuttle, I do think letter grades do mean a little bit more at the defensive tackle spot. This guy looks like, easily the best in this class. A little tip, and from a couple of draft classes I've already done in Madden 24, doesn't seem as heavily swayed this way, but sometimes you can find nose tackles. If you can find defensive tackles that weigh over 330 pounds, last year in Madden 23, these guys were almost always 71, 72, 73 overall. They have like 97, 98 strength. We didn't get a roll of any of them in this year's draft class, but always keep an eye on that for those D tackles because a lot of them do exist in the day 3. I mean, this is just not a strong D tackle class at all because we have one first-round pick, and then you're not touching any of them until the 4th or 5th round. But Clifton's going to be the best, and when you are looking at D tackles, if you can find a nose tackle, guys, 330 pounds plus, usually a safe pick. And yeah, Clifton, far and away, the best defensive tackle in this class. Hell of a player, by the way. Here's the one position I can't really give you a lot of information. I haven't figured out myself. Outside of go with the highest projected player is the outside linebackers that are classified as edge rushers. Your speed and power rushers. You got Mike Quick. Like the best one I would guess right now, because it's all kind of about blind picking, would be Corey Rubin, just because he does have some traits with him: elite jumping, elite speed, elite acceleration. But it's really, really tough to kind of draft these edge rushers based off of combine because they're getting compared to off-ball linebackers that are almost always going to be just faster. Like, look, we literally have a guy here that's 6'6", 267, and his combine is being weighted the same, especially speed, 3-cone. I guess a guy that's like 229 pounds, like a glorified safety. So can't really go off combine all the time. So I would say the safe bet for drafting these edge rushers that are stuck as a linebacker, I usually just I hope I have a top 10 pick and I get a guy that's a first round selection. Definitely do your scouting. And I guess all things equal, weigh letter grades and guys with good combines. But it is a very tough position to blind pick. And yeah, literally looking at it, Quick had the letter grades. He's a 75 overall. Rubin would have been the one I would have picked just because he had those elite traits. But one of those positions, man, I would not blind pick if you need a 3-4 edge or you want to really look at these speed rushers and power rushers that are outside. Just scout them and get the information from the game. So now if I'm blind picking off-ball linebackers, there's athletes usually help. I do like to see if we can scout at least B, if not A, in the zone coverage, because that's just something I personally like. But we got Sammy Allman here, tried testing and true, 40-yard dash, 3-cone, and the 20-yard shuttle, so we're going to check him out. I would definitely blind pick him. And then for the middle linebackers, decent grades there on Delgado, but the guys that I would look at Joe Grant. And here, not as good key ratings, but trust the athletes here. Top 10 in the 40-yard dash, top 5 in the 3-cone and 20-yard shuttle. Has elite speed in the ratings. I like him. We're also going to take a look here at Reggie Winslow. You want to talk about an athlete. We got B tackle. And for Winslow, we got top 5 in the 40, top 5. You can go to his pro day in the 3-cone, top 5 in the 20-yard shuttle. Those would be the 3 blind picks at linebacker. Let's see how well we would have done. So Allman down here would have been a 71, but he is, obviously apples to oranges because these guys are pass rushers. But for a 3rd-round pick, you're taking 71 all day. My middle linebackers were Grant and Winslow. And Grant would be tied for the top linebacker in the class at 74. So would Winslow. So you can't miss going with athletes at linebacker. And if you want a little secondary tip, look for the zone coverage. I love it to be B or an A. Now let's learn how to scout blind pick some corners here in Madden. For corners, I always like to prioritize letter grades first, and then I would use the combine attributes as maybe the tiebreaker, if you will. And there is 2 clear top corners for me in this class. We have Kyle Goodrich, who's projected to be the top corner. We got 3 Bs and a C for his key rating. Also helps, too, that he has 2 of the 3 things we like to look for in the combine with top 5 40-yard dash and 20-yard shuttle. But, man, I actually wish this was a rebuild or some other type of it because look at Greg Russell. 3 A's and a B, and he's projected to go 2nd, 3rd round. this is a layup. You're not always going to get something this easy, but 3 A's and a B, so we're prioritizing the letter grades. He's going to be very good. Also helps his combine is really nice. Maybe not the straight line speed you want, but he does have an elite acceleration rating, and his 20 and 3 cone is very good, 2nd and 5th respectively. So in my opinion, Russell and Goodrich are going to be the top 2 players, and this Russell guy should be very, very good. And look at that, Russell 78, Goodrich 76. Another one, another position. You know what to do now. I'm going to put safeties, both free and strong, into the same bucket that I have corners. I would prioritize letter grades and then secondary look for some athletes. So looking at the safeties right now, blind picking, I would say Sherwood, because he has 3 Bs, is probably going to be pretty good. I don't have a lot of information here, but look, top 5 in the 40, 3 cone, and 20-yard shuttle. The other best combine, which maybe adds a little bit more weight to the fact that you can't necessarily go off grades, but we're also blind picking. We don't know what his tackler zone is, but B hit power D-man, you might just pass right over it. But Ladarius Edwards does have a pretty good combine. 3 cone, 20-yard shuttle is good. He also brings in elite strength. So he'd be one to watch. That'd be a riskier pick. I think I definitely would prioritize Sherwood in this situation because he has 3 Bs. Looking at the strong safeties, we have Dawkins, who has a double B, and then when you go look at the combine, it does tick off a lot of boxes because he's almost top 5 in the 40-yard dash. His 3 cone and 20-yard shuttle look good, so I'd feel pretty comfortable selecting Dawkins, and I gotta look at Haggis. I mean, we also have some other Bs, but we're gonna talk about the better athletes as the tiebreakers, the guys that you want to try to, put your own little power rankings before your draft. Haggins is first in the 3 cone and 20-yard shuttle. Not too bad of a straight line speed there in the 40-yard dash. So Haggins, Dawkins, Edwards, and Sherwood would kind of be my short list here for safeties. And I do tend to find the safety position is top heavy. If you want a good safety, it's kind of like edge rushers. You gotta want to draft the ones that are projected on the first round. Usually not a lot of value into day 3. So at free safety, Edwards. Oh, I didn't have Hickman. Okay, he's pretty good, but I had Edwards and Sherwood at 76, 75 respectively. So again, it's not a 100% foolproof method. Maybe there's more information we can find out. I missed technically the top safety here, but I still, for a blind pick to get players 2 and 3, not too shabby. And at strong safety, we have Dawkins and Haggins, 76 and 75, number 1 and number 2 at the position. So letter grades, and then use combine as your tiebreaker for safeties in Madden. Lastly, I'm going to show you how to draft some kickers and punters. And I actually got nice polar opposites. There's 2 things you want to look for. You want to look for an elite attribute in one of 2 categories. If you can get both, you're going to get a guy that's probably going to be like a 76, 77. But we have Miles Howdling, who straight up gives us A kick accuracy. They just give us that information. I didn't scout it. You know it's going to be pretty good. Now, decent kick power. I would say sometimes you can get poor kick power when you're just going right off the accuracy. And that is sometimes maybe a little bit of fool's gold because you see the A. You always want to kind of get the combination of the 2. But A and decent's not too bad. Looking at the punters here, Gillespie has A kick accuracy and Barkley has A kick accuracy. Both of them have poor power. So I'd be a little off-putting. We have Crowder, who has C in the accuracy, but he easily has the best leg. He has great kick power. He's the only punter that has a great kick power. So he'd be the one that I would check out. But it doesn't look like a particularly strong punter class. And looking at it for the punter, I would have went Crowder, and he had the best kick power. He's 69. Gillespie 66 with the accuracy, Barkley 69 with the A accuracy. It wasn't a particularly strong class, but both methods would have been the top. You would have got the top 2 punters, or at least the top punter. If you went with the kick power is Crowder, the best accuracy was Barkley. They're both tied. And then for the kicker, you go with the one with the A accuracy, and he is 73, the highest rated kicker in the class. You had McLean here 72, but you still would have got the top kicker, and you get free information. You never have to scout them. Never ever, even if you really want the next Justin Tucker, never scout kickers. They have the accuracy, you get the kick power. It's an easy pick, man. Very easy pick. That is going to wrap it up for the draft portion of this video. Hopefully you can take this information and dominate your multi-user leagues because you watch C4 and they don't. I hope you go out there and whatever rebuild you do, you dominate it. You get X Factor after X Factor with the information you have learned from here today. And if you do think you got anything out of this video, all I ask in return, hit that old like button because it helps out the channel and the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe if it's your first time stopping by, but this is not the end of the video. We're going to now follow it up. I got 10 Madden 24 franchise tips that you should know going in. It's not going to be cookie cutter. It's not going to be like we talked about in the Madden for beginners type video. These are going to be things that you should bring to your franchise mode to give you the ultimate edge. Tip number 1, going into franchise mode, a new feature in Madden 24 is you can now turn on or off auto depth chart reorder. It was the biggest pain in the butt in Madden 23. Anytime you would tinker with your depth chart, you'd sim a week and someone get hurt or there'd be a practice squad poaching and then your depth chart would reset. You can now toggle that on or off. So that is a massive win to now have. Do not skip out on this. Don't forget that this is a feature, because I know if you're like me, it drove you nuts every time your depth chart reset last year. Turn that right on the manual. Number 2 is you now have a nice suite of commissioner settings, which are going to be able to fine tune your franchise mode to where you want to have it. You can now adjust the trade difficulty. So if you want to make it just some simply bizarre, ridiculous franchise mode, make it easy and it'll complete all your trades. If you want to make it super realistic and impossible to make trades, and you're one of those people that always complains how easy it is to abuse the trade system in Madden, well, big guy, come in here to the commissioner settings, make it very hard, and enjoy that. Same goes with the free agent motivation impact. This can control how easy and or difficult free agency is going to be, and absolutely tinker with these ones to give yourself the most realistic or unrealistic, whatever you desire, franchise experience. My last tip from the opening settings is about regression. I have been someone that's kind of crapped over the regression system in Madden the last couple of years, but in Madden 23, I rock with it on for my franchise mode, just because regression works awesome when it works, but sometimes you get that dev trait regression. You have a guy that loses a superstar when he has no right losing his dev trait, and that just kills the immersion. I found the best balance when I'm setting out. You leave it all on, max these out. I find that when I max out 75 out of 75 for X Factor, 100 out of 100 for Superstar, 500 out of 500 for Star Devs, the regression is not as harsh. You don't see as many of those bizarre regressions that kill the immersion in your franchise mode. So this has definitely helped me enjoy the regression feature in franchise mode. And if you've been someone that has also just always turned it off, try this out for just starters and see if it helps you at any, because it did for me. Did quickly want to mention the sliders, not because I have a set that's ready to go. That's usually out of my wheelhouse, and once something really good comes in the community, I'll test it. If it works, I will let all of you guys know. But something that's kind of getting slept on, I think, out of all the new features to Madden 24 is they've gone in, XP sliders have always been, you can adjust for offensive, defensive, and special team players how they earn XP, but in Madden 24, they have added age progression XP rate, which is gigantic. They've added regression rate for offense and defense, which you can now control. They've added age regression rate. So now, this whole trope that I've had the last couple of years that Tom Brady would never exist in Madden, because just at a certain age, all quarterbacks, no matter what you're performing at, they're just going to start to regress. You can now get rid of this. You can now, not necessarily get rid of it completely, but you can now fine-tune your user experience. So if you want old players who are still playing at a very high level not to get nuked into the ground just because they're getting old, you now have the sliders to be able to do so. And I cannot wait until somebody figures out the best meta to get these right where they need to be, to have a really true, authentic user experience where old players just aren't, going to the scrap heap and dying on free agency. Guys that you could still utilize because they still play at a high level and they're not going to lose 4 or 5 overall points every single offseason. It's going to be huge when a good slider set drops. Don't sleep on this. Hopefully sooner or later we have a really good set and I can share it with you guys. The next tip here is a little bit more of a casual one. Most people probably know about it, but just in case you don't, I'm going to use my Philadelphia Eagles here as a reference point. Something that Madden has got a lot better at over the last couple of games is having, especially if you sim your wide receiver one getting big time numbers. Before, it was like almost if you wanted your wide receiver one to have really big numbers in the sim, you'd have to move them into the slot. Nowadays, your wide receiver one will still perform, but I think when it comes to your wide receiver two, looking at the Philadelphia Eagles, if you want Devontae Smith to have a chance of getting 1,000 yards, you're probably still going to want to abuse the slot wide receiver in the sim. The slot wide receiver usually gets a whole lot of targets, so if you want to maximize it, you got to come here to the special for your lineup and make sure you have a good player as your slot wide receiver. If you have a normal dev guy, like a Quez Watkins that you want to go up dev trait, put him at that slot spot. Don't stick him on the outside as a wide receiver too. Same can be said, I've actually found out this game, through a couple of rebuilds, the D-Tackle 2 eats in this sub-package. Obviously, you're going to see these guys primarily on the field, but I've found that in previous Maddens, usually it's just my first defensive tackle in this spot that puts up decent numbers. I've seen, especially my first rebuild, my D-Tackle 2 was constantly eating from this spot. So maybe that's a little bit of a slight change here in Madden 24. And same goes for your linebackers. Always make sure your top 2 sub-linebackers are the guys that you want getting all your tackles on your defense, especially if you're in a rebuild situation where you want your linebackers here Say if we want Nakobe Dean and Morrow, those are the two guys that I really want to go dev trait. I'm making sure that they're both my 2 starting linebackers because they're most likely going to be your top 2 leading tacklers at the end of the season. Another tip that's a little bit more on the casual side, priorities for spending your staff points. There's always blocks that I want to get to. I want to prioritize right away as soon as I possibly can. So I just want to tell you guys which ones those are. One is always after school tutoring. I love working my way down there and being able to get 3 additional focus player weekly spots. So I have all 6 going at all time. The next one that I would prioritize would be going through the defensive development trait here for the coaching tree and get down to the final piece, which will then allow all players on your team will count as a scheme fit during your weekly training, which is even just more XP. Anytime we can stack and earn more XP across for the whole team, you're gonna want to take that one. Now we're gonna move to the offensive coordinator. I think the best one here to prioritize for the offensive coordinator, fortunately we're kind of going the opposite direction here with Philly, is go down the left-hand side, and you're gonna want high-powered. High-powered, when you fully max it out, will give your quarterback an additional 3 throw power, and throw power is at an absolute premium when it comes to your quarterback position. So that is going to be absolutely gigantic. You know, maybe there's going to be the case if you're rebuilding a team, your quarterback already has 99 throw power. You can pivot a little bit on that one. But I think more often than not, you're going to want to prioritize that +3 throw power. On the defensive coordinator, the biggest one that I like to look at is here in full blitz. And you're going to want to go on the opposite side. And it's really the first one. It's a speed boost. Much like just throw power is very, very valuable. Speed kills in Madden. And anytime you're going to be able to get an opportunity, especially it's the only second block, not like you're going to spend all these points and go all the way down. You can get +3 speed for all your corners. If you have a team with like 95 speed, you're going to have a bunch of 99 speed corners. That is ridiculous. I almost think that should be buffed. That should be something that you push way down there to the bottom of the tree here, not the second one down. So that is immense value. And then looking at the player personnel, it's almost pretty self-explanatory. All of the bottom ones at the bottom of the tree are very, very valuable. Smooth Talker, which helps you trade up in the draft, especially when you want to go ahead and grab your guy that you found, that stud that's 5-6 picks ahead of you. Get that to make it easier. It feels like home, which allows scheme fits to have more interest in signing to your team during free agency. Helps with the realism a little bit. And then you got Unlocker. Anytime you're dealing with players in-house that you want to try to lock down to a big-term contract extension, if they say, nah, I'm not interested, you get that. And you get a second chance to try to get an extension. So those are all the talent tree widgets that I would prioritize. Widgets? Is that what they're called? Widgets? Blocks? Upgrades? Get those ones. Whatever they are, get them. Another quick tip is for your weekly strategy. Eventually, you will have all 6 of these slots open if you listen to me and prioritize getting that after-school tutoring in your skill tree. But kind of decide just who to focus players. My rule of thumb for my rebuilds is I always want to look for guys with dev traits that are under 25 years old. So in this case, if I was just quickly doing it for the Philadelphia Eagles, I would want to put Jalen Hurts because he's 25 with an X factor. Now, if you do have like certain fatigues on in your franchise modes, you might want to be a little bit more considerate so you don't have a lot of your top players getting gassed. But general rule of thumb for me, you want to, like we got Jordan Davis there to under 25 with the superstar dev. It's just these are the guys that are going to get the most XP and they're going to benefit the most because their XP doesn't take a whole lot of experience points to have them go up in overall versus a veteran player. And then I would go, I guess Devontae Smith in this situation. I would go Jalen Carter, but the ratings are scrambled. But I'd always prioritize that. That's my rule of thumb, 25 with the best dev trait possible. I call this the Game Shark sponsored segment. I got 3 kind of cheap things, cheap, cheesy things you can do in your franchise mode that not everybody knows about. First one is if you made some bad cuts, you've made some bad trades, you got a lot of dead salary cap, you can't make any moves, you can always clear your salary cap space by going in here to the member section, finding your team, and clearing your cap penalties. That can make the world of difference come free agency, come trying to sign your own free agents. Cheating hack number 2 is you can force wins. Not everybody knows how to force wins in this game. You can do it. More beneficial if you're doing something where it's like, I want to go 0-17, then you can just force loss. But hey, you want to force wins, you want to take a screenshot to send to your girl that you went 17-0 in your franchise mode, thinking it's going to get you some bonus points. Hey, just go in here. With a nice big away win at the Patriots, home win of the Vikings, yada, yada, yada. Just like that, you're 17-0. Now my last trick here is how to trade for any player in the NFL. I'm the Philadelphia Eagles. I really want Budda Baker, but man, oh man, the Arizona Cardinals want a king's ransom that I can't pay for him, but I really want him. I don't want to go any further in my franchise mode until I get him. Well, don't you fret. Just make him a punter or kicker. Watch. All right, now I'm trading for punter Buda Baker. I'm going to give up my 57 overall quarterback. Thanks for doing business, Gannon. And then you just go to Buda Baker's, looking very suspicious as a number 70 punter. And you go right back here and you move his position right back to strong safety. And his rating is going to go right back to the 90, whatever it was, right away. And that is how you trade for any player in Madden 24. Super easy. Super cheesy as well. So that's why we're now going to unplug the Game Shark and finish with our last tip of the video. And we're going to talk about training camp and just things that I've learned about training camp. There's probably a bunch of videos right now about mini games, but I'll give you my 2 cents on what I've learned. They're hard. They're honestly pretty hard. Like, it's not a walk in the park to get gold. I could get gold on like half of these fairly consistently, but the DB ones can be hard, especially if you can't get a lot of picks. Chasing tackle, my tip for chasing tackle is just do a lot of cut tackles. Rushing attack is probably the easiest one to do. You just straight up get touchdowns. It's all about getting the multipliers. All about the multiplier. As you can see right now, I'm in the running back drill. We're at a ×8 multiplier. I'm not doing anything crazy. It's not like you always got to try to set up like the crazy 5, 6, 7, 8 juke move. If you can just stack touchdowns, you are going to get gold in this drill. It's probably the easiest one to get gold on. Let's see, we got one more run here. Watch me not get gold, but I think we will. You know, if you can, kind of stunt there a little bit. But there we go. Gold attack. You don't have to do anything crazy. You don't have to overthink it. Just touchdown, touchdown, touchdown as fast as you can. It's all about the multiplier. Same kind of goes for the passing ones. I mean, I'm not a super ace. I can't get gold all the time with the passing. Some of the routes are frustrating in these drills. But generally speaking, if you want to even get to silver, because like, look here, get silver, you still get that 1 skill point. You get the rookie snaps if you're using a rookie quarterback. Just check down, check down, check down, get that multiplier, because every time you complete a pass, it adds +1 to that multiplier. And if you check down, check down, check the whole time, you're going to end up making a bunch of lame passes, but you're going to have like a ×10 multiplier, and that'll be helping you get that silver and gold medals in these drills. There you go, fellas. That is a very early Madden 24 draft guide and scouting guide and some nice juicy franchise tips highlighting some of the new features here in Madden 24 to give you guys a big time advantage when you start up your franchise mode, be it rebuilds or multi-user leagues. So if you feel like you gained anything from the video here today, all I ask for in turn, subscribe if it is your first time stopping by trying to make the most out of the Madden 24 season here on the C4 channel. Leave a like, tell me a comment what's your favorite new feature in Madden 24, because all those things help out the channel and the old YouTube algorithm. The robots love likes and comments. But that'll do it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for checking in on the video. Until next time, it's your boy C4 saying peace out, love ya.